There's a war being fought, only it's not the one you think it is.
She was 13 when her childhood would end. Only 13 when the curtain fell on that day. In her mind, she only needed a friend. She was loved, though she never saw it that way. Most days were not so happy for her. Problems her parents wouldn't understand. They hoped that things would be as they were before the situation got out of hand. You're my girl. Came like a flash on that day. At 13, she'd leave all the pain behind. At 13, she could at least run away. At 13, that was all she had on her mind. He said,
"Hey girl, do you need a place you can stay? You look lonely. Let me wipe the tears from your eyes."
He knew all the right things to say. At 13, she could only fantasize. All she thought was she'd begin anew. Unaware, he was cold as ice. At 13, she didn't have the vaguest clue. At 13, he could raise the market price. Her parents never gave up the dream. For years, they kept searching for their only child. No matter how hopeless the future might have seemed, they prayed somehow she was still alive. And one day, despite fear and threat, there came a tip from an anonymous friend. They found her beaten and abused and filled with regret. But they found her. Now she was home again.
Yeah, there's a war on. It's a war on your children. This was one of the hardest songs I ever had to write. The whole subject of pedophilia and human trafficking is something none of us want to look at. And the very fact that it's so hard to look at is the reason it persists to this day. You know, if you've got a problem with your car and you just decide to ignore it, that problem's never going to go away. It's going to persist and it's going to get worse. And one day, it's going to smack you in the head. But this problem that I'm referring to is so horrendous that nobody really wants to look at it. And I don't blame him. I can't tell you how hard it was to go through writing this song and doing the research. but please bear with me just for this one episode. Maybe we can put a dent in this problem and get rid of this worldwide epidemic. There is a program to get kids at a very early age interested in topics they shouldn't be thinking about till they're well into their teens. I'm talking about sex and various types of sex, and I'm talking about kids as young as kindergarten. They're having story time for 5-year-olds where they have a trans guy come in and read them a story about a trans lifestyle and then teach the kids how to twerk. I'm talking 5-year-olds. We've got the mental health industry doing their best to make pedophilia normal. Seems every other day you're going to hear a story about some high-profile politician or celebrity who was arrested for kiddie porn or sex trafficking. It goes from the sleazeball in the street all the way up to the royal family. By now, we all know about Jeffrey Epstein and this massive quantity of tapes he's got, filming judges and politicians in very compromising positions. And that way you can make them vote any way you want and do whatever you ask them to do. Just recently, there was a sting operation in Florida where they arrested 108 people for human trafficking, which included some Disney employees as well as a former judge.
It took 6 days for the sheriff's office to find 108 people trying to buy or sell sex in Polk County.
Then there's Xavier Jackson. He's 27.
He is accused of sending sexual images to someone he thought was a 14-year-old girl.
Oh, did I mention that he just happens to be a lifeguard at the Polynesian Resort for Disney? You think there's a few children around there?
Sheriff Grady Judd identified several other Disney employees accused of soliciting a prostitute.
This is the Honorable Daniel Peters.
Sheriff Judd said Peters is a retired judge from Cook County, Illinois, who thought he was meeting up with an escort.
He said, quote, "I've been on the other side of this." Well, I'd like to ask him today, so which side do you like best?
Just recently, parents have been protesting at school board meetings that their young kids were being taught pornography. Yeah, the recommended reading was porn. We're talking young kids. And when the parents protested, when they finally found out, thanks to the pandemic, the parents were seeing what the kids were being taught. So they showed up at school board meetings, and our Department of Justice, along with the White House, decided that these parents were possibly domestic terrorists. So this is not a small, isolated type of problem. It's happening all over the place, much more than we realize. And the fact that we're not looking at it is the only reason it persists. The recent White House nomination for the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court? Well, give a listen.
Here are, I hope, in the next couple of days, some of the cases from your time on the court, the district court, the federal district court, that I hope that we can talk about. Let me just run through a few of them so you know exactly which ones I mean. United States versus Hawkins. This was a child pornography case where the defendant distributed multiple images of child porn, possessed dozens more, including videos. The federal sentencing guidelines recommended a sentence of 97 to 121 months in prison. Prosecutors recommended 24 months in prison. Judge Jackson gave the defendant 3 months in prison. United States versus Chazen. That case, the defendant possessed 48 files of child pornography. The federal guidelines recommended 78 to 97 months in prison. The prosecutor recommended the same. Judge Jackson sentenced him to 28 months. United States versus Cooper. There, the defendant possessed dozens of images of child pornography and distributed dozens of images of child pornography, possessed over 600. The federal guidelines recommended 151 to 188 months in prison. That's a long time. The prosecutor recommended 72 months. Judge Jackson gave the defendant 60 months, which was the lowest sentence permitted by the law. United States versus Down, that's a case where the defendant distributed 33 graphic images and videos of child sexual assault to an anonymous messaging app, unfortunately a practice that's becoming more common. The federal guidelines recommended 70 to 87 months in prison. The prosecutor recommended 70 months in prison. Judge Jackson sentenced him to only 60 months. Again, that's the lowest level that was permitted by law in that case. United States versus Stewart, the defendant there distributed scores of images of children suffering sexual abuse. The guidelines recommended 97 to 121 months in prison.
I'll spare you the details. This went on for quite a few minutes. And this is the White House's nomination for the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court. And this is the same judge who said she couldn't define what a woman was because she wasn't a biologist. And now we come to Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. Check this out.
Meantime, in other news, remember last week we told you a story about how a number of Disney employees walked off the job last week because they felt that Disney did not do enough to oppose a bill that passed in Florida. It's HB House Bill 1557. And what that bill does, because it has been signed by Governor DeSantis, is it prohibits teachers from providing instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity to children between the ages of kindergarten and third grade. So they just don't want teachers talking to kindergartners, first, second, and third graders about sexual orientation or gender identity.
And here's this from Tammy Bruce, who is gay, in fact.
We've fought for years to have Americans know that we are not after their children, because we're not. And yet here you have this dynamic that sets into motion this idea that children are the focus. For some, it is a marginal extremist framework on the left. It has nothing to do with gay civil rights. And if you are a parent and a family or just a regular person who's outraged, you are not a homophobe. As a matter of fact, American lives, the lives of gay Americans, are fabulous. And this kind of argument, this kind of thing moved out under the guise of gay rights or trans rights is the homophobia, because it places us in a context that we are sexualizing children, that we want children to be sexualized. And here's another news flash. There are no gay or straight children, and that's going to cause a controversy. But there are just simply children. Gender is a concept that children don't even understand or can comprehend. They certainly are not thinking sexually. This is the narcissism of projecting our adult issues onto kids. It is outrageous. It is only a few people, and others in charge have been made afraid and terrified at what that marginalized extremist group will do. It has nothing to do with tolerance or gay rights, and it has everything to do with molding children within the view of these marginalized extremists.
And now here's Let's Go Brandon, spouting a little more deceit and dishonesty.
We know it's hard when there are those out there who don't see you and don't respect you. For example, the onslaught of anti-transgender state laws attacking you and your families is simply wrong. This administration is standing up for you against all these hateful bills, and we're committed to advancing transgender equality in the classroom, on the playing field, at work, in our military, in our housing and healthcare systems, everywhere, simply everywhere.
So now not wanting teachers to teach 5-year-olds about sex, any kind of sex, is an onslaught of anti-trans state laws. Personally, I don't care what you do. If you're two consenting adults in the privacy of your own home, that's your business. But leave your freaking hands off our kids. All right, just to end this segment on a more positive note, the song you heard at the beginning of this episode called My Special Girl, well, a friend of mine told me that the song might have just saved a young girl's life. There was a 13-year-old girl that she knew of that was thinking of running away from home, and she played her the song, and the girl changed her mind about running away. That's what makes it all worth it. This show is sponsored by me. Yeah, me and my album, Unhinged. By the way, My Special Girl is on that album. The album's getting great reviews. I couldn't be happier. And you can now download it and stream it and play it for your friends and share it at all the great digital outlets. You can find out more about it on my website, therealnealfox.com. That's Neal with an A, not with an I. And you can also get fabulous merch, t-shirts, etc. that I made with my own little hands. So head on over to therealnealfox.com right now, or Apple, or Amazon, or Spotify. Share it. You know what to do. What better way to lighten things up than to hear a little speech from Kamala Harris?
We also recognize, just as it has been in the United States for Jamaica, one of the issues that has been presented as an issue that is economic in the way of its impact has been the pandemic. So to that end, we are announcing today also that we will assist Jamaica in recovery by assisting in terms of the recovery efforts in Jamaica that have been essential to, I believe, what is necessary to strengthen not only the issue of public health, but also the economy.
What the hell was that? Oh, she makes me happy. Here's a song I wrote about 12 years ago. The politicians have changed, but the sentiment is perfect. It's called Take Out the Trash.
Shaky every time that we are around. We can talk until we're blue-faced about the troubles on the hill. About leaders who are two-faced and we're bitching about it still. But when trouble is a brewing and the country's on the brink, you don't sit there on the sofa when the house begins to stink. Take out the trash. Take out the trash. Don't wait till you look like you got a rash. Take out the trash. Take out the trash. Now it's the same old tired story and we don't believe a word. They've been lying to our faces, they've been polishing the turd. And we know who leads the leaders and the gods they answer to. So we're getting off our asses, cause there's one thing left to do. Take out the trash. Take out the trash. If it smells like 13-week-old corned beef hash, take out the trash. Take out the trash. Take out the trash. It's been seeping out the window, it's been leaking through the walls. It's infecting all who touch it, working in the hallowed halls. And you can't just turn your back, and you can't just walk away. It'll get you while you're sleeping, it'll find you one fine day. Better put out all the candles, better take it nice and slow. You don't want the sparks are flying, or this place is gonna blow. So if there's fire in the attic, and you got that fishy smell, better get our asses running before it blows us all the hell. Take out the trash. Tell me about it. Take out the trash. If it's crude or if it's done with panache, take out the trash. 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 Don't wait for it to be a news flash. Take out the trash. Yeah. Take out the trash. Take it nice and slow. You don't want the sparks are flying, or this place is gonna blow. So if there's fire in the attic and you got that fishy smell, better get our asses running before it blows us all the hell. Take out the trash. Take out the trash.
Hey, that's a wrap for episode 14 of Uncle Neal's Neighborhood, home for all things avuncular. I'm your host, Neal Fox, and if you like what I'm doing, you want to keep me doing it, you can share this podcast. You can go subscribe and like my music videos, which I spend a lot of time doing on YouTube and Rumble. It's just go there and type in Neal Fox, Nealfox. And you can become a patron at patreon.com/Neal Fox, or go to my website, sign up for my very infrequent newsletter at therealnealfox.com. Got merch there. Love you guys. Don't forget, if you're not feeling that great, go out and find somebody who could use a little help. Helping them is the best way to help yourself. Love you guys. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.